I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, September 19th, 2014. Well, it looks like the United States is at war with the Islamic State, or ISIS, or ISIL, at least kind of, sort of. We do have a broad coalition that the president keeps touting, and the president did get France to go along with helping us with the bombing, but he has said repeatedly there are going to be no boots on the ground. And, you know, ISIS has produced a video, a warning, pretty slick video actually, warning that the United States shouldn't put boots on the ground or bad things are going to happen. You know, they'll be killed. Well, the president has said this repeatedly. There are going to be no boots on the ground, just a bombing campaign, and we'll get other people to do our dirty work, and we'll arm them. And it looks like the House and the Senate has passed an appropriations to arm the moderate rebels. But stop here. I want to come back to that in just a minute. You know, the president talks about this bombing campaign. You know, the Iraqis were begging him to do this in January of this year. Begging him. ISIS is not fully formed. They were a ragtag group out in eastern Syria and western Iraq. They hadn't taken all these cities. They hadn't crucified and beheaded all these people. They hadn't gained all this momentum. They didn't take over all these oil fields. You know, bombing them back then would have made a lot of sense, and it probably would have been a campaign that would have been much more effective back then when they weren't, you know, so strong as they are now. And listen, the Secretary of Defense Hagel and the Joint Chiefs Dempsey, they say this is a huge threat. All of our security people say this is a big threat. Well, if it's a big threat now, why wasn't it dealt with 10 months ago? That's outrageous. Why? I have a lot of questions about this. Why didn't we have a bombing? Did we just miss it? We just missed this until it mushroomed into this huge terrorist cloud that we have now. That nobody in the NSA, and the NSA is reading my emails and listening to your phone calls. They don't know this is going to happen. They didn't know this was happening. The CIA didn't know this was happening. You know, and here's another question. They say they make, a couple of $1 million a day selling oil on the black market. How do they let that happen? Why don't we sanction those countries buying that oil? I mean, this is at least thousands of barrels of oil a day. They need trucks and pipelines. They need to use the SWIFT system. How is that allowed to go on? Why is that going on? I mean, because we want to have a, kind of a fair fight and let the terrorists continue to sell oil and continue to get arms and weapons and all this other stuff? Now back to arming the moderate rebels. I mean, here we have Rand Paul in the U.S. Senate saying that, these moderate rebels fight right alongside al-Qaeda, and we're arming them. And, listen, either back, 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was talking about how, listen, I think the U.S. is covertly arming these rebels, either through Saudi Arabia or Qatar, or, we also had these gun-running allegations that Rand Paul brought up against Hillary Clinton, that he alleged that she was running guns from Libya up to Syria. And now, he wouldn't do that if she would be a potential political opponent for the 2016 presidential election. He wouldn't do that if he didn't think there was at least truth to that. And a lot of people say that the U.S. had been covertly arming the Syrian rebels. I hate seeing John McCain on saying, well, Hillary Clinton wanted her to do it and the president didn't. Well, they did do it. I mean, come on. Nobody at Fox or nobody at these other stations will say, hey, didn't we arm them covertly? Didn't we arm the moderate rebels? And didn't those arms turn into arms for al-Qaeda? And then didn't al-Qaeda turn into ISIS where they were executing moderate al-Qaeda members? Yes, yes, yes. Now we've gone from covertly arming the moderate rebels to overtly arming the moderate rebels, and these moderate rebels fight right alongside of al-Qaeda. And here's another question. Why is it that it's U.S. policy to get rid of Assad's regime? When did we declare war on him? Why are we doing this without even a single debate in Congress that we are funding people? We are creating war against Assad in Syria. Now, I'm not saying he's a good guy. He's not. But did we ever vote on this? Did we ever talk about this? Why are we trying to kick out Assad? At least he's not killing Christians. And who are we going to give the country to? Is this going to turn out just like Libya? Oh, that's a lovely, beautiful oasis of democracy, isn't it? Well, it looks like we are doubling down on a horrible policy of arming moderate rebels, and a lot of people in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, are worried about the arms that will fall into Al-Qaeda's hands, that probably will fall into ISIS's hands, and that this is going to be a bad policy, and it will backfire again. It's just going to backfire in an overt way instead of a covert way where everybody can run around and say, well, we weren't really arming the rebels. Hillary Clinton wasn't arming the rebels. That's not what the allegations are, at least from one senator in, Rand Paul, who's made that allegation that she was in the State Department running guns up there, which is the whole Benghazi thing. Allegedly, it's all about. The president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, is in Washington asking for money, and he's getting it. I mean, he's gotten more than $1 billion of funding just from the United States taxpayers, more than $1 billion for various different programs. Now, Poroshenko is asking for weapons, and so far, the White House isn't giving him those weapons. Kind of like the way we did early on in Syria, where, oh no, we'll give humanitarian aid, but we're certainly not going to give them weapons. And Poroshenko was speaking to both houses of Congress, asking for weapons. And here's his quote. He says, it's Europe's and it's America's war. It's a war, I'm reading this, it's a war of the free world and for the free world. Did you catch that, folks? This is war. Even though there's a shaky ceasefire, this is war, and he wants weapons for more war. This isn't getting better, it's getting worse, just as I've been forecasting. Even though it's on a low simmer right now, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Meanwhile, the Russians are striking back with these new sanctions that have been put on them. And what did I tell you? What was my prediction? That, well, gas prices are going to be cut. They have been. Prices are going to be rising. They're rising. One country, for example, in the Eastern Bloc, Poland, is saying that their gas supplies have been cut by 20%. Well, I guess they can deal with that now in balmy September, but come January and February and, December, I don't think it'll be so balmy then. And, as the gas supplies are cut, the prices go upward. And, it just depends on how ugly this wants, that the EU and the U.S., want to make this. I mean, Russia can just cut it off completely and say, we have enough. We have enough money, we have enough supplies, we can sell our gas to somebody else, or they can cut the supply and jack the price up sky high. I mean, who knows, but one thing will happen with this, and this is what's coming. I mean, higher energy prices to run factories and to heat homes in Europe is going to drive a teetering economy over the brink into a depression. And depressions will cause, depression in Europe will cause a global financial calamity. And if Europe goes down, you can bet you the United States will go down too. And Martin Armstrong, who came on this past week, was pointed out, and aptly so, that the U.S. is not a great economy, but it's the only one holding up the world. That the rest of the economies around the world are sinking, and that he stated that the U.S. is basically holding up the world. Well, barely. And we're doing it with a lot of printed money. And, if this gets ugly enough, if the gas supplies get cut enough, if the prices go up high enough, surely the European Union will fall into a depression, and surely that'll suck down the rest of the global financial system as well. Surely it will do that. Finally, the Federal Reserve has made a decision to keep interest rates at or near zero and keep up with the easy money policies that are going on. If things were really recovering, would we need to be, keep these zero interest rate policies? Would we need the easy money policies if we really had a recovery? You see Janet Yellen at the Fed talking out of both sides of her mouth. On one side, oh, we've made great progress. On the other side, oh, we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, there's no real recovery. Come on, stop it. The labor participation rate, 92 million people aren't working. Come on, stop. Come on. There are lots of folks sounding the alarm. One of them is the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The IMF warned that sharp downside risks are rising. Isn't that a nice way of saying, hey, we could have a real, fat market meltdown again. We could have a huge market crash again. That's what they're really saying. That's what they're warning. And what could cause a market meltdown? I mean, higher gas supplies in Europe, that could do it. Could investors get skittish and everybody run for the door at the same time? That could do it. How about some sort of a military exchange or a nuclear exchange or a suitcase nuke or an act of terror in Lower Manhattan or something? I don't know. You name it. Any variety of things that could cause people to get skittish and run for the hills. My friend Gregory Mannarino, he says that surely another crash is coming. It's coming. He also predicted that we'd have one all-time high after one all-time high. But now, even Greg Mannarino is worried. He's with good company. The IMF is worried, as I said, about a sharp downside risks arising. And he says, listen, these zero interest rate policies is doing nothing but stealing money from savers. It's a gigantic wealth transfer in the stock market. It really is a cruel way to punish people, and it helps the markets. We have a market recovery. We don't have a economic recovery in Main Street, but we have a market recovery on Wall Street. And Mannarino pointed out that margin debt, now that's borrowing money to buy stocks. That margin debt is at or near all-time highs, just like it was before the 2008 financial crash. Same as it was before the 2008 financial crash. And here's a little story I wanted to bring up. This is Eric Holder in the newspaper, and he's talking about, prosecuting some people, for doing reckless things. He's gonna prosecute some people. I'll bet you he doesn't prosecute the people at the top of the banks. This is more hot air from Eric Holder. Oh, he might, prosecute some 30-year-old. This is in USA Today on Thursday. He might prosecute some 30-year-old, but he's not going to prosecute the real culprits of the financial calamity and the financial problem. That's the top bankers. What did William Black from UMKC say? In our financial institution, we have felons running our financial institutions. And not a word about that, but Eric Holder is thinking about doing, some, financial prosecutions at the banks, for people doing reckless things. And the last thing I just want to say, this is, when I say that most people don't believe in the president's plan, look at this picture. Here is Kerry. Here we got the headline is, the House begrudgingly approves the training of Syrian rebels, and so did the Senate. But here's Kerry. Is he just wiping his eyes? I mean, does this look like a Secretary of State that is confident? Does this look like a Secretary of State that thinks we're on the winning side of history? No. I mean, listen, I want the best for the country. And I want, if you're going to go to war, then you have to have a really good plan, and the people that do war should be in charge. But listen, this has gotten out of control, and I just wonder if it was meant to get out of control. And I'm talking about ISIS in eastern Syria and western Iraq. I mean, we could have bombed back in January. We could stop their oil revenue tomorrow. Why not? We could bomb that for starters. Any oil truck out there that we think ISIS is running, kaboom. But now they're not happening. And so I just wonder if, they've allowed this to grow in size so we can, print some more money. We can save America. We got a boogeyman to prop up the dollar. I mean, what's been happening with the dollar, I mean, the Fed is having absolute nirvana. I mean, they probably worried about the dollar getting too strong and want to knock it down some. They don't have to raise interest rates. The dollar goes up. Have you noticed gas prices going down just before the election? Yeah, what a coincidence. And they don't have to raise interest rates. So, folks, we have the most bizarre geopolitical and economic situation that I have seen since the 70s as a reporter. To me, I'm almost at a point where nothing surprises me. I mean, really, if aliens popped out of the White House, I don't know if I'd be surprised. But anyway, thank you so very much for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments. Thank you very much for supporting USA Watchdog with your donations. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Fear not.